Welcome everyone to the Double Doors Dust 2 US podcast. We're having some hijinks off camera as we're trying to get everyone here together and on the road and on the show. All right, looks like we got an action-packed podcast here of a lot of stuff that we could talk about. I've got Liam Slevin at SlevaCS over to my, I think technically my right on the stream. I can't really see. It's like it's left, it's right, it's different. And then I got Lucas on the other side. Lucas at Dust 2. All right, guys. Well, welcome to another episode of the podcast. We're finally doing this consistently, which is good. I'm actually very proud of us, because it is technically our jobs. We've got a lot to talk about. I know. Most importantly, me. We got a lot to talk about here. We're going to talk about YEKINDAR obviously getting signed. We've got complexity in the showdown. Yep. We have then the overall fall showdown that we need to talk about. ECL playoffs, which are going to be big and huge. And also very nice. And then finally, as we keep doing over and over again, we're going to keep previewing the major because our opinions change time and time again. And what's going to be really cool is that, Lucas, I think we haven't discussed this, or I haven't discussed this with you yet, technically. But what we're going to need to do is we're probably going to need to do major power rankings. So maybe we can try and do like a preview power rankings just straight up on this podcast.
Oh, off the dome?
And then off the dome, just off the rep.
You are the power rankings man, so.
Yes. And then we're going to have to do the rankings and probably team of the month. And we'll need to announce that like at least a little bit sooner, maybe. Like, just before we get to the major. So,
yeah, because we'll be on the plane.
On the 29th, baby.
To like whip, when I'm usually whipping it out.
I know. Well, maybe I'll see. There's supposed to be Wi-Fi on the plane. We can always expense that if we're gonna push out some articles or push out some work. So we'll do. All right. So let's get onto it. Also, for anyone watching, we're gonna try and get messioso to come on to probably talk about the complexity of BLAST. Obviously, that very disappointing showing for complexity there. I think there's a lot of questions that we have, especially as they're entering into the end of the week or end of the year, because right now publicly there's no tournaments left for them to enter for the year, so it looks like practice and stuff like that. All right, YEKINDAR on Liquid. I'm looking at our outline here, and Liam, the first thing that you put in here, are we really surprised in hindsight? I think you want to just take that since that's yours.
I think looking back on it, like it's been a week since we did that podcast, or like maybe just over a week, and then YEKINDAR signed pretty much after it. And that entire podcast, we're like, oh my god, like he could go to Navi, he could go to G2. In hindsight, I went back and like read interviews from Cologne, interviews from recently as well. Literally, what were we talking about?
Right.
Our whole headline, our best performing YouTube video is YEKINDAR saying, "I'd like to stay here, please let me stay." And we were going on like, oh god, maybe he'll go to G2, who didn't make it from the RMR. Like, it's a fucking.
We're just so used to being let down. So
yeah. No, actually, like we were afraid to like open our hearts and like let him in, but we were afraid to get hurt. We were afraid to get broken up with again.
But, no, I mean, I don't think you're wrong. I think that there are a lot of pundits as well that were saying like YEKINDAR, could he move to something else? Is it possible for him to go to a team like maybe G2 after their major failure? Do they have pieces they need to revitalize? Or even Navi, like SDY, we were talking about that as well. I mean, I don't think it was super out of the realm. I think we definitely
overplayed
nervous as NA fans because our mantra is to accept nothing and be grateful for everything. Yeah. True. No, money does talk, and I'd like to know how much money exactly spoke to YEKINDAR to convince him to stay in the United States. Also trying to figure out exactly what the deal was with the transfer. I mean, obviously it's very confusing, and all the things that I've heard out of the Liquid camp has been this was one of the most complicated. This was one of the most difficult deals that they've ever done for any player. Like they literally spent since Cologne working on it long term. Like the idea was to make this a permanent transfer since Cologne, and it's literally taken them this long to fully complete the deal, which to me screams more than just YEKINDAR wants a certain number and they're not budging, right? Like obviously they needed to figure out the contract situation, and I think that's just been a very interesting way to go beyond it. I think one statement that I did get out of Liquid, though, not officially as always, I'll see if I can pull up the exact wording, but it was like, we will 100% under no circumstances be paying any money or be involved to any like to anything, any agency or holding company that is trying to skirt sanctions. Like they were not trying to pull like Cloud9. It was very much
Right.
do it above board, do whatever they could, and do it legally and right. So now, do we know exactly what that was? The answer that I have is a resounding, we're going to hold on to that information.
Right.
Which is not as fun as I'd like that to be, but that's kind of where we're at with that.
Yeah.
My question is them going through, and this is like a pillar of optimism, I suppose. Do we have like the long-term core here for Liquid now? Like, is this what, like
So,
this
yeah.
seems like rock solid for, I mean, obviously like Nitro, there's, you know, he is the freshest from like the most common of names, I guess, you know, in that
Yeah.
regard. So
we ignore his 1 year away.
yeah, exactly. So
Never
like
happened.
exactly. So he is
Unfortunately.
rated pretty high, obviously, in the domestic scene and stuff. But if we were to speculate, if any of them were to go just purely off of performance or anything, you know, obviously him being the one who's kind of been fluid in that regard. Do we have like a core four for like the next couple of years? And to me, I believe we do. And like that's been an issue for Liquid for some time. And like to now have like four different applications of offense, I mean, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's true. I think what's the problem, and Liam, I'll let you get to this, is we don't actually know how long YEKINDAR was signed for.
That's true.
Right? That's a weird thing that I'm a little shocked that they did not put out at all, which
Yeah.
leads me to believe that it might be less than what people
Ooh.
hope,
Like a
and
short
less
term.
than what it right. And I'm not saying short term like a 6 month,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't be surprised if it was something like an 18-month to 2-year deal. And especially if right, because when Navi comes out and they're like, we signed simple to a 3-year deal, like a 3-year deal sends a message. It's like he's here for a long time, like a
Right.
long-term thing. And I just feel that if you're not doing that, especially in what today's culture has been, where teams have proudly said, we signed him for 2 years, we
Sure.
signed him for X number of years, we've signed him for this long, and now you're not coming out and signing it, that I get a little worried. Again, that's all
Right.
pure speculation. It's 100% speculation. But
Is
it just
that
it makes
Liquid's
me a little worried.
protocol?
I don't know. I
Have
don't
they
think
ever
it has.
announced?
I don't think that they really have. So again,
to quickly
oh,
touch
yeah.
on both your points with what
Yeah.
Lucas said about like the long-term core. I said it in previous podcasts. I think OC for me has one of, like highest like skill ceilings as in like that he can hit, and I think having
Mhm.
those those 4 players around him, like Nitro long term,
Sure.
been around the block, Naf, Elige, YEKINDAR, is there a better like rifling trio that you could have your AWPer set up around? And to touch on your point, Ryan, I wouldn't see it that way because for me at least, when you're looking on the outside of like announcements of players and their contracts and stuff, normally when a player is signed, I find there's always more talk about like everyone's super focused on like, oh, this is how much the deal was worth. Like when we talked about like the biggest transfers, like Gold Zero was all about like how much the transfer cost to go to phase. It wasn't about like how long he signed for. Same with device to device to nip. It was always
Yeah.
about like the figure and stuff. Other ones I probably wouldn't be as familiar with, but I think there was more focus just put on like the fact that YEKINDAR is here that they don't really need to worry about like how long it is for now. So
Yeah. And I think that's probably fine. And it's probably right that like the emphasis is on YEKINDAR's here. We don't have to worry too much about the future. I just quickly went back as well as we were talking, and I was like trying to see like did they do it in recent announcements? They didn't do it for Shocks. They didn't do it for OC.
But they did it for
so
NAF.
they did.
that was a re-signing, wasn't it?
No,
was
but
it-
yes,
that
when they re-signed him.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
You're
So you always
correct.
announce it when you
How-
re-sign a player.
Yeah.
So.
Well, do you?
I don't.
Why would you do
Well,
it for? Why would you
mostly-
do it for a player that you sign a new contract for, but not for a player that you're bringing in?
Right.
Because
Honestly,
you're not-
that's
that's what I'm
not a
saying
bad
about, like-
thing. How many years was it before I look it up? I'm gonna say it was 3
3.
years.
He noted this November 28th, 2021, officially re-signed with Team Liquid through 2024. So 3 years.
Yeah, I was at
A 3-year
Blast for,
extension.
No. What? No,
yeah, it was
that's
a 3-year extension.
2022. Yeah.
2021, yeah.
Okay, so my 3-year theory is standing tall here. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting. I'm not saying that. Listen, if Liquid is signing YEKINDAR for 2 years, I don't think it's bad. That's not a major concern, I don't think at all, right? Because
Right.
2 years gives everyone a lot of flexibility. Maybe YEKINDAR works out for the 2 years, and both sides are happy, and they'll renegotiate after a year, and they'll be like, hey, you know what? Let's do this for another 2 years. Let's tack some years on.
Right.
Or maybe YEKINDAR's like, you know what, guys, this was great, but OC, his hair smells really bad, and I want to leave. And can I go to this super team called Face Clan, and they're going to give you guys a ton of money? And maybe they're like, sure. Like, you have a lot of more flexibility when you have these shorter term contracts. I thought it was just interesting that they didn't announce. It just seemed like an announcement that was taking so long. I
Right.
thought they would have been excited to release a little bit of details, but maybe that's just a cultural thing from their end, and maybe that's just not a thing. That's
I don't know.
so.
Well, they didn't when they signed OC. Nothing got disclosed. When they've never disclosed anything for a Liege that I'm finding. NAF is the oddball. Like even when they were like, yeah, Liege is a co-owner. Like there was nothing beyond that. Like they were just like he
Yeah.
owns a part of the company, which could be 0.1% of the
Yeah,
company.
it's probably
Yeah.
like 0.5%. It's like so
Right.
residual.
I think a thing to note with the NAF thing as well is if you remember the context of that time, that's when we were all like, "Oh, NAF is out of Liquid. NAF is on his way to EG."
That was a power move.
Exactly. So no, you like when they have the announcement, they're like, "Oh, forget all that EG bullshit. He's
Yeah.
here for 3 years. He's not going anywhere. This isn't like a 6-month
Right.
extension, and we're gonna ship him off to EG then." So
That was that may have been like a
That
corporate
was
decision
that
to
NAF,
stamp.
but that
something.
was NAF the one that said NAF was
It was
the one
on
that
his
did
it was on his IG, correct?
right. So and it was his Twitter, but I don't think Liquid said anything officially.
Okay, so 46. I mean, we
Yeah,
could easily.
yeah.
we
we're looking
could
at
go
the
back and forth
video,
with this
and it's
all.
just no.
Well, you could. Well, I'm saying you could. I mean, you could easily go back to their IG 46 weeks back, and if you really wanted to, and see if they did it. I don't. But either way, if nothing else, it's not common practice for them at all. If anything,
Right.
NAF is the outlier. So I don't know what that leads me to believe. Honestly, I don't really.
It kind of gives me, yeah. It might just be that kind of thing, and I'm being influenced by seeing everyone else kind of announcing these contract dates. So
I just know that there's not a number or a length that could possibly come out where I'm like, okay, like they should not do that. Like YEKINDAR is a de
Yeah.
facto 5 to 10 player in the world, and 10 is a very, very loose
Yeah.
estimate. Like I'm being very exaggerative saying he's a top 10 player. He's more like a
Yeah.
4 to
He's-
6 at worst. And it's like there's not really a numeric that you can put on it where they're probably overspending. So I think they're fine no matter what. But as far as like the contract is too short, that could be a problem, and maybe that's why they're not doing it, because people could be uneasy about that. Because like
Or
you said, there's a
again,
lot of hoops to jump through.
And even then, even again, if the contract is too short, you don't want to let everyone in the world know that your contract is so short, and letting other
Correct.
teams be like, okay, we can just wait out for a year, and then
Yep.
we can go pull an Astralis and sign him with the 6 months. Like so I get it. Like you got to protect that information that's valuable.
Right.
So
You just put a nightmare image in my head of YEKINDAR wearing an Astralis jersey.
honestly, that's kind of sad. That I would like to see. We're gonna get off
Okay.
topic because this is better.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see Astralis go actually EU mix. They should.
So
Go NA.
I in fact did it, and I went through. Liquid posted that NAF resigned, did not post the link. NAF went out
There
of
you
his
go.
way to post the link.
There you go. Okay, so NAF. So that's
It
the
is
exception
not
they have.
Liquid practice or
So, yeah, all
protocol
right.
to express
right.
length or amount.
All right. I will then give everyone credit then in the Liquid organization for doing that, for not releasing that information. Maybe it's just me, my conspiracy brain,
Sure.
to doing it. So
Well,
now
we
that
know
we
that you're privy to those. Like we know you loved the Colossus with the numerics.
Well, listen, I haven't been super privy on this one. I'd like to be more privy. They've kept this super close to the chest, and I'm very impressed by these guys for keeping it close to the chest.
I agree.
We have not seen a lot of leaks coming out about length or contract size. We haven't. Smooya hasn't gone on Twitch to say how much YEKINDAR's getting paid. It's everything seems to be pretty close together on this.
People just gotta stop telling Smooya personal stuff, I think.
Stop telling Smooya your salaries, please.
Yeah.
Guys, come on. Let's we're a little too old for that.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I think so. So, but if say Yekinder doesn't work out somehow in the major, who else would Liquid conceivably even be able to
Nobody.
target?
Nobody.
I think they'd really have to like break the bank to like
Yeah.
go after someone from like another team. Like
It'd have to
just
be historic.
offer like Twist the fucking bag just to come back.
Yeah.
Even though
Oh
he
my-
just definitely wouldn't do that.
He won't. His girlfriend lives
Yeah.
in Germany. He would never come back to the
He's also
US.
he's also
literally
on
never
like
come
one of the
back.
most successful teams of all time, even from a
Yeah.
competitive
Well,
standpoint. Why would
he
you
can
risk
make
that?
Liquid more competitive.
This is what I mean. Like, there's no. I don't think there's any player that's available. Like, I think Yekinder just fell into their lap at like
Yep.
the most ideal time.
If YEKINDAR doesn't work, they're in the like they're lost.
Yeah.
Alright. So, would they even try and get a young European import? You don't think that would help them be where they are? Like, it would take too. Because
Liam.
here's the other thing about that's always interesting about Liquid. They've really never really struggled. Like, they've always been like a very good, decent top team. Always, perpetually.
I'd say their run with Shocks was really, really disappointing.
Well,
Especially like when you
yes.
look at Antwerp, like that was disgraceful
They
for a
made
team that
the-
was like that level. And like I know it's one player, but like I don't know.
I mean, even the
I just
2018
feel like in the
or 17 squad was pretty
yes,
mid.
the 2017-2018 issues when it
Like
was
the-
like Pimp, when it was
Yeah.
rotating through like Pimp and
Throwback to
Steel.
Pimp.
The whole
And,
simple
like-
saga was a mess. Post simple.
Post Simple was bad. But I will say that I feel like they've always been a consistent organ in North American CS, and I feel like they've been
Certainly.
strong.
Oh yeah,
So
They've never left. They've never left.
for North America, yeah, but I mean like in terms of like top tier competition, like this year at the start was a real struggle. And like towards the end of
Yeah.
last year with the Stewie lineup.
So I mean, I'm just gonna piggyback off of what Dez said in chat. I mean, like if we're just gonna play like super crazy fantasy mode, we did an interview with Malbs and he said he'd love to play an NA. So there you go. If YEKINDAR miraculously did not sign and he never came and stood in or anything, then Malbs, I guess, makes a lot of sense.
I just don't know so much, unfortunately, about Malbs, just purely because I think he's had some issues recently.
Well, yeah, but
he's had some
you're asking me to
roster
pull
issues.
something, and I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
that's
even
fair.
agree.
That's
I
fair.
think they would have been doomed and desolate. They probably would have cherry picked somebody from Complexity or overpaid for some mid talent over at EG or something. Like they would have just
Yeah.
done something desperate if they
They
didn't
should
get
have gotten
YEKINDAR.
30-year-old talent Pone alone.
Man, why are you dogging on poor Pone alone, man? You're gonna be 30 soon, bro.
Oh,
Ooh.
hey, whoa. I didn't
Yeah.
need that one. Fuck.
Hey.
All right.
Lucas
yeah.
brings the fire on this podcast.
I gotta protect my boy.
Listen, so now with this, we gotta check. We've got to check into what do we think Liquid's now going to be with this extended and boosted confidence with all
Yeah.
this kind of being sorted out pre-major. It's kind of nice for them to go in knowing what's happening, knowing what's going on, and that way they're pretty set. How do you say that? Do we think that this changes the mentality of them a little bit here?
I think it gives them a major morale boost, knowing that this is like done out of the way. Like we don't have to worry about this. This isn't like you're on the roster now. This isn't a stand-in. Like so, when Liquid win the major in Rio, it wasn't going to be like, oh, they won it with a stand-in. So
Right.
I really like how he slipped that
Yeah.
in there. That was
Obviously.
nice.
Got to back the boys. But in all seriousness, I think that actually does give like a mental boost, even if it's like subconscious to them, like they don't realize it. Like that's gonna be like there's a weight off their shoulders there, because like
Yeah.
the interview that I did with Naf in Cologne, he was like, I want to know as much as you do. He's like, I really want to see the situation just get sorted. Like I was in the dark over it, so
Yeah.
it's
Which I
good to
think-
see that. Yeah.
It's good. It's glad that it's all kind of cleared over everyone's heads.
Yeah.
All right, Lucas, last words before we move on to the complexity part, and I think that's the time that we're going to get messioso on here.
What was the question? I don't even remember after Liam said all that.
Just any final thoughts on Liquid YEKINDAR finally being
No.
in here?
Oh, yeah, no. I think they basically new honeymoon period. Honestly, I think that's what it's gonna feel like.
Ooh.
Just because he technically wasn't in the roster, they were probably operating under the pretense that he was a stand-in. I mean, I'm just speculating, but
Right.
they know now whether it's 6, 8, 9, 12, 100 months, they know that they got him. So and Lige was talking about how, they were kind of redoing the playbook,
Yeah.
locking in this contract. Now moving forward, okay, these plays that we cement in, these are final. These are they're no longer drafts under the pretense that YEKINDAR might leave and they have to swap someone in. This is final. So I think we're gonna get a different a honeymoon liquid and whatever that means. So
perfect. I love it. I love it. All right, I think we're gonna try and get messioso in here.
heck yeah.
So once we do that, I think we'll get to that. The other important thing I think we should know is that like Liquid also wanted Floppy. Like we know that's kind of been like a thing is that they wanted Floppy before. But the problem was, right, they wanted so when the extra salt thing was going down, they signed OC. And then Floppy goes and it's like, oh, Floppy's good here. And then now it was like, well, if Flex is like, well, if you want Floppy, you got to give us OC. And then it's like, well, yeah, that's not happening.
But that's good. That's good negotiation tactics on their part.
Oh yeah, for everyone. I mean, take the player that you've just signed that is probably the most integral to your roster that you cannot replace, as evidenced by the complexity junior factor,
right?
And be like, hey, let's swap that. I don't see that.
Right.
All right. I think
good to call bluff.
Graham is getting in here. Oh, there he is. Graham. Get him as he's picking his nose. Congratulations, Graham. You can unmute yourself in the Discord.
I'm scratching myself.
That's what they call it. Just okay. Well, perfect. Well, hello, sir. How are you? Welcome to the show. You've been on our show.
Welcome back. Yeah.
Because this is a temporary setup, not my home setup. So just let me know.
Oh, well, unfortunately, I'm hearing a little echo. Yeah, VMix might be using the wrong mic, so in your settings,
I can fix that. Hold on.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, it's definitely using the wrong mic. Holy shit.
Perfect. You can hear it. This is good. Okay, so anyways, we're now here to go talk right ahead about your team, Complexity at BLAST. For the hot second that it was, for the 1B03, very unfortunate. I think we should keep talking a lot about here, but we should just talk about purely about that game. And we had Grim talking a little bit on the show, or not on the show, on BLAST, like post game, that JT had to go back to South Africa after the major. He had to go get a new visa, and then Halzerk was having some travel with like Mexico and stuff like that. Like, can you talk a little bit about like how much was that really affecting the performance of the team? How much was it like kind of a hurdle to get back to it? And did this really affect the team's preparation for BLAST?
Yeah, so I mean, we initially planned to have the full week off for after the RMR, win or lose. Like that was always the plan, to have a week off. We'd been in Europe for 8 weeks straight, and before that we'd been practicing in NA for like 2 weeks plus the RMR qualifiers. So we've basically been going for like 10 weeks straight, no break, no nothing. So we planned to have a week break anyway. It just so happened that Johnny, JT, had the opportunity to go back to South Africa and get some European citizenship, which is a pretty big thing for him. It means he doesn't have to get Schengen visas. It could also mean that he gets easier travel to the US and other countries with a European passport. So that was a pretty big thing for us. So we wanted to get that done. So he booked a last minute flight like the day before we left the RMR. Just to go back to South Africa and just get it done.
Oh God, I don't even want to know how much that flight cost.
I actually don't think it was too bad.
Really?
Did Tion go back as well?
Tion also elected to go back. That was for visa reasons. But obviously, as a coach, his ping is less of an issue, so he's actually still in South Africa.
Sure.
But yeah, JT flew back to South Africa for like 4 or 5 days, and then flew back to Dallas. So he obviously had to adjust time zone wise a little bit later than everyone else did. But yeah, I mean, ultimately we planned to have the week off, so the week off wasn't changed by the fact that they went away. But coming back obviously so late may have affected the his own sleeping pattern, whatever. But yeah, it is what it is. I think given the benefits of what he went to do, it's definitely worth doing. And then Holzerk is currently in the process of applying for. He's waiting to get his P1 visa, so he's not allowed to enter the US until he gets that result. So
Got
he
it.
is currently playing from Mexico until we get that through.
Wow.
We just recently got some good news about that, so we're now hopefully in the final stretch of getting that done. So we're hoping to have that wrapped up by this year.
Cool.
I think
Let's
in general,
go!
in general, getting US visas right now off the back of COVID and everything, I think is still quite a long wait in some cases. So we're hoping to get that done by the end of this year, and then next year will be a lot smoother for him in terms of that process. The
Who
worst thing of the
knew? Who knew the most exciting news of the day was going to be about visas, baby? Fucking love it.
yeah.
We got
Yeah,
JC
getting-
gets a European visa. We got Halser getting his P1. This is some
Yeah.
good stuff. I'm liking
It
it.
is.
yeah, we got some good like housework done. So it's not like we were just sitting there like doing nothing. But yeah, obviously in terms of performance, doesn't put you in the best place to
Right.
to perform. But I think coming off the back of the disappointment of not qualifying for Rio, we
Yeah.
weren't exactly going to be in the best place to perform anyway. So yeah, it is what it is. We plan to have the full week off anyway, so it's not like we didn't practice because of these factors. But it is what it is. I don't
You
think
mentioned the
I don't-
disappointment. No, sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
You mentioned
Go ahead.
you mentioned the disappointment. Like I seen you and the guys after you went out there are more obviously like devastated. Did that carry over a bit? Like, could you kind of sense it when the guys were like playing the Sharks game, or?
I think it affects different people differently. I think some people are very are capable of sort of just going, it is what it is. Let's just move on. You can't change the past. But I think it still lingers in the back of your mind. I think this week maybe it's not too bad, but I think in a week when we see people flying out to Rio and the major starts, I think watching it is going to be very tough. It obviously won't affect our performance at that point, but I think mentally it's going to be quite tough to feel like know that we're missing out on that major. And yeah, I mean, I definitely think it does affect you deep down, but it's individually everyone copes with things differently. But I think in general we're in a pretty good place mentally, but we could definitely be in a better place mentally. Um, but yeah, if you want to be in sports, you have to be as willing to lose as you are to win. Because
Yep.
if you want to experience the highest of the highs, then you have to be willing to experience the lowest of the lows. I say, like, if we put ourselves in Imperials in their shoes, and then we win that game, the lows that they would experience would probably outweigh the lows that we experience. So
Yes.
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's very easy to look at your side of things and sort of say, this sucks for us, but like, how could it have been on the other side? So
Right.
yeah, it's sports, but it's performance. You have to be willing to lose, or you have to accept that you can lose, and you have to take what comes with it. And it's how you bounce back from that that will determine how we are as a team. But I'm pretty confident that it's going to be a good learning experience for us. I think this was the first time that any of these guys have played a match for any level of stakes remotely close to that. So from an experience perspective, going through that maybe in the long run is something that will benefit us more. Obviously, the short term cost is rough, and it is really rough. But the long term benefits of going through a match like that, I know, for example, like Ricky, he posted a tweet that basically said, like, it sucks that we lost, but he's never felt more alive playing
Yes.
best of three. And like that's
Loved
the
it.
kind of experience that when you get used to playing that best of three, is that the next time when you come around to it, you're the
Yep.
experienced veteran in that kind of
It's like paying your dues.
yeah, exactly. So I think watching the guys when they were playing that game, it didn't look like they were defeated at any point. It didn't look like the pressure was getting to them. You were there. You
Yeah.
could attest that they were in the zone. They were focused. There was no.
Right.
So hopefully the next time when we get into that kind of place, we're the team that can take the next step and hit the next gear to get us through it. Maybe that game is the kind of game that puts us in a position to close out the Inferno against FaZe in Pro League, for
Yep.
example, or something like that. It's how we move on from this and take the learnings from it. It's the most important part. That's something we've been trying to work on now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a healthy way of looking at it.
There's a lot to pull narratively from that loss, honestly. Just like where Floppy was like a year and a half ago, I mean, he was not playing Counter-Strike or not considering playing Counter-Strike. The Valorant was up in the air. Maybe this was 2 years ago or whatever, when you just
Oh God,
com-
yeah.
when you compare and contrast like where
Forgot about all of the Valorant stuff.
right
Sorry.
and then you look at a year ago where Grim was, and to see how he performed at this RMR, and yeah, you're right. And then like in me personally, like Fang's growth is just like unreal. So yeah, I think it's hard for people to see, especially players in the moment, but it's not like you're supposed to lose that game, because obviously you want to win, but you lose and you take the right things from it, and then it doesn't happen again. And that's the beautiful thing about it.
Yeah, I expect it to happen again. I'm sure this is not going to be the last time we
Sure.
experience a game like that. But yeah,
But you grow.
Yeah, exactly. We have to grow, and
Yep.
I think one thing that this team people still seem to forget is that they're like 20,
So young.
22.
Yeah.
I think Johnny might be 23 now, but actually, in terms of where they all are collectively in their careers, they're all still very early on. So
Yes.
there's a lot of room for growth, and I think that the age of a CS:GO player retiring is only getting higher and higher every
Yep.
year that we go on. I don't think it's an infinite number. I think when you hit the 30s, it does begin to have a bit of a ticking clock on you. But if these guys have got 7 to 8 more, really solid, consistent years for them, I think the sky's the limit for where they can go.
Yep.
But yeah, we just have to take it a bit of a day at a time, a season at a time, and make sure that we sort of hit our expectations and our goals. And I think we probably haven't over the course of this year. But if you told me that we would end out the season somewhere between rank 15 and 20, that's probably where I would have put us at the start of the year. So ultimately, have we not achieved our goals? No, maybe we haven't, but we're still not far off from where we want to be. And arguably, we had a pretty huge reset over the summer break.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we've sort of started a bit from scratch. So
It's only the first season.
Yeah.
yeah, it's only the first season, and the second half of the year is so compact that we just went
Yeah.
from BLAST, EPL, RMR. That's the season done. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were
We
talking
didn't
about
qualify
that.
for major. That's the realistic thing. So that's the season done pretty much. So
Yep.
yeah, it's really hard to. In ways, I kind of miss the old style open circuit where you had a star ladder one week, a PGL the next week,
Yeah.
an ESL event, a DreamHack event, a Faceit event. There was so much going on. There was all the leagues that were running, the online leagues running around that. So there was always opportunities to pick up new points and keep keep the ranking up, and keep testing yourselves. Whereas now it feels very kind of one and done. This is just shot.
Yeah.
all the pressure is on that one pro league week, or
Mhm.
that those 2 days of blast. And we're I'll hold my hands up. We're extremely fortunate, obviously, that we play the complexity and we have the spots in the league. So that's I'm not going to complain about anything like that, because that's ridiculous. But even in our position, it's still a very much kind of like almost like a one and done. And it definitely feels that way, especially in the second half of the year. Because, the first half of the year has the extra Katowice, has the extra Cologne, even had Dallas this time around. There was the
Well,
Dubai
I think
event
that's
too.
what's going to happen, unfortunately, for next year as well. Even with the changes to the schedule here, we're having the major, and I think I was just talking about this with someone, but the I think it ends at like June 12th is the end of the first season, so it's a little bit more
Yeah,
spread
something
out.
like that. Yeah.
So it'll be a little bit better, and I think if Dallas is kind of around the same time, that Dallas will literally be the last event to end it. It'll be like major a week, Dallas break,
I think it
come
goes.
back.
I think it goes major, Dallas, blast finals.
How are they going to fit all of that in? That is going to be.
I'm pretty sure the Blast finals are the last events of
Oh
the
god,
seasons. And then,
I'm terrified then for what's going to be these schedules, because the major doesn't end until the 23rd, and if you have June 14th being the end, and somehow you're trying to fit 2 events in there,
Yeah, nightmare.
I am a little concerned.
it might be Dallas's before the major. Then I don't know. It's I'm pretty sure that the Blast is the last event
Oh god.
Yeah.
of June and December. So
Well,
and
and
then Cologne opens up the season, which is going to be an interesting prospect. But I kind of like
it'll
that.
work
I actually
out.
kind of like that. I think it's you sort of earn your qualification before at the start of the season. And
Yeah.
then you go to Cologne, which is probably the biggest event outside the majors. That's that. I think it personally has worked there. I think have a bit of an affinity to the city, but it's
So
it's
just
definitely
just
it's definitely
a little
a
bit of a
spectacle.
fan, yeah.
It's definitely a spectacle. Cologne has a little bit of a special place in my heart, for sure. It was the first event where we truly had an event in an arena, a full arena. We had the Katowice stuff before, but that was never like the whole arena fully open.
Right.
To just Counter Strike from maybe 2016 was, but Cologne was just a different beast. Having 12, 13,000 people in there. It holds a special place in Counter Strike for a number of reasons, I think. So I think having that as kind of like the season opener, where it has a bit more significance perhaps than the season ending after the major, I think having a bit more separation from the end of the previous season is quite nice. So we'll see. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be a lot of complaints about next season or next year with all the player dates moving around. We've seen all the drama, right? So it's
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. We've got to keep the show moving just a little bit here. So let's talk a little bit more about the fall showdown between all of us as we do that. Graham, now you can kind of do it since you don't really have a leg in here. You can be a little bit more impartial. We've got MIBR and Team One. They're playing right now, actually. Speak of the devil. Or
they started early.
They just started. So there they go. Yeah. They just started. At Team One and MIBR, that'll be an interesting one. They're going to play on Sharks, and then whoever from there is going to be going to the grand finals, which is where we should realistically see the winner of Evil Genius versus 00 Nation, which I believe is going to be not 00 Nation. I believe is going to be Evil Geniuses. I think Evil Geniuses are going to be the ones to be in this grand final, and I think they're the one that are going to end up going to the Blast finals.
Of course you think that, Ryan.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I should think that. Damn it.
But why do you think that?
Why do I think that? Because I think that EG is continuously on this hot streak. They have prepared well for what's been going on with the RMR. They have a very solid team. They're finally hitting the ground running. They're going to get Flux out. They're going to get the ball rolling. They're going to feel confident and hot as they head into Saturday when they go and play 00 Nation, unless our Australian friends can do us a favor. And I think they're just going to keep it going. I think overall that team is just stronger pound for pound than most of these others.
I think that's pretty fair. Go ahead, Graham.
No, I was going to say, I want to get Graham's opinion on the team that I'm going to pick, because they're the team that won a best of 3 over his team, 00 Nation. I'm super high on them. I have been since Cologne. I just want to see what your kind of perspective is, considering you had a team who faced them.
I think EG will beat them in a straight up best of 3. That's not disrespect to 00 Nation. I mean, it'd be very hard to disrespect them considering they beat us. But I think I think EG have got something good going right now, and I would put my money on them if I was allowed to gamble in Counter-Strike.
There it is. Isik watching this. Isik is watching this podcast very carefully, making sure we're all good here at Above Board. I think on the other side, I think Team One is definitely, and the only reason I say Team One here is because it's online. Team One on LAN definitely has some issues. Team One online, unbeatable, dude. Just actually insane gamers. But here, this is online. I think that they're going to take this to the final, and I think they're actually going to give EG a run for their money. I think they play EG to 3 maps.
Interesting. I think it's
beat Team One, but yeah.
I think 00 Nation and EG is like the finals before the final. So I agree with Graham. I think I really like the 0-0 Nation product, but I like the EG product a little bit more. I mean, I'm really a believer in the Nealon product, so yeah, I think EG take that.
Nealon is good. Are we going to start this campaign?
Yeah, but I think the biggest part about that matchup is we saw it with the interview with the Cynic at the Oramore. Like they were saving stuff from Frag. Do you think teams are going to be like teams like 0-0, teams like Evil Geniuses, but so close to the major? Do you think they hold back a bit against teams that they could be meeting at the major?
They got
I-
to. They got to.
that-
I don't think they
that-
take out everything against EG because they're going to have to go up against EG probably in the first round, in the first week, first section, whatever it is. What is it? The new challenger stage? Who knows?
The challenge.
I guess
Challenger stage.
I guess it's all going to depend on what they value that Blast event, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you do not value the Blast event more than you value trying to win and go
I
on to the
know.
major. There's
know.
no way. There
I
is
know.
no way.
But
So
how
the-
much do you need to? I mean, how much do you need to? If you get over a 0-0 Nation, how much do you need to save against Team One?
You
know
don't
what I
need.
mean?
Well,
True.
no, it's not even saving against Team One. It's saving against everyone else because everyone's going to be watching EG and watching these recent demos and watching their recent stuff.
Oh,
You can
maybe.
play it. You can have some fun, but I mean, the other thing is it's online. Like who
It's
knows
also
what's-
online, so like, who cares?
That's the worst. That's honestly
I hate
the worst part.
online
You do all
Counter-Strike.
these blast groups. You do all of these things, and
Oh,
then
I
you're
hate
like, you know what we
online
should
CS.
do for the people that lost out on blast? We should make them now do another online qualifier after
yeah.
their LAN event. Like,
Yep. I'm just not a fan, man. Like if there was a world where we just never had online events and every company turned a profit while also flying everyone to a central location and going one and done and then flying home. Like if we could just do that, I would
Yeah.
love the
and
ecosystem.
in that ideal world, I'm also getting first class flights to go to Rio from New
Mhm.
York. But unfortunately, we're not in that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
think it'll be interesting. I'm hoping to catch as many games as I can over the weekend. Graham, are you going to be watching it, or are you still feeling too hurt to really watch any of that?
What, the major or showdown?
Both?
I'll definitely catch some of the major because I mean I'm in Dallas now until Monday, so I've not
Cool.
got much else to do on the weekend. Might try and play some NA Face It and boost my elo a bit.
Awful.
Nice.
Terrible decision. You're gonna regret that one.
Abuse being in NA for a little bit.
Heck yeah.
We'll queue up together. How about that?
Oh
Oh,
god.
you'll lose.
Oh god. Sorry, yeah, no, yeah, I'm busy this weekend. Really busy. Going to Six Flags. Is it Six
There you
Flags?
go.
No, I think I'll catch a little bit of it. I like to. I think there's a nice little sort of friendly rivalry now between the NA teams. So I think I'll at least tune it for EG and see how they're doing.
There you go.
If not, just to mock them if they lose. Not the players directly, but the management. That would be big. No, we all like
that
to
would
give
be a
each
little.
other
That would
some
be a little
digs.
mean. Vorborg,
A little
listen,
mean. Be a bit
well,
uncalled
we
for
still
as
have
well.
to figure out, is Vorborg a real coach or not? That's we haven't figured. No one's figured that out yet. Is Vorborg just the manager or a real coach? And
Good
well,
scout. That's for
Hopefully,
sure.
hopefully we'll find out soon. I'll go down to Brazil and investigate. Lucas, I mean, you can
What's up?
handle that interview too. You could be that investigator.
Heck yeah. I'll find out.
All right, we should also talk about ECL playoffs. Graham, I know you don't particularly care about the lower rungs, the people that still have to play in Challenger, but we do, and we want to talk about that.
I care probably more than you do.
That wow,
Oh, got your ass, Ryan.
oh,
Oh,
aggression
I mean, think about this rationally, right?
okay,
I'm the GM of a top North American team in Counter Strike.
right,
You know,
Got a
I'm not-
poach.
not like it's not my end goal, right? You know, in a great utopia, I'd keep the same 5 players forever, and
Right.
and everything's good, right? But you know, players have buyouts. There are maybe bigger fish out there who can come take players. I have to be prepared for the next step of the team, right?
Yep.
Next iteration. So, you know, it's not like I go out every single day and think, how can I replace X player? Because I'm not thinking that at all. But you know, in the back of my mind, and there is an active preparation for, you know, if someone comes in and pays this guy's buyout, you know, who do we replace him with, you know,
Yeah.
two 5 7 days notice.
Yeah.
Because that could be a realistic possibility, like,
Ooh.
there's nothing I can do to control those aspects. So, I do have to, part of my job, it's responsible is
Scouting. Fine, I get it.
is physically being aware of the talent that's available.
But
And
hey, man, I have to report on them and talk about them for situations exactly like this, which is
Not
why.
only that.
Ooh, are we supporting me?
No, I was just gonna say, Graham has to be on his scouting toes because, like, the moment he finds a talent that he wants, EG's just gonna buy him. So he's got to be.
No,
he's gotta,
they're
like,
not just
he's
gonna
gotta
buy
Very
the
true.
talent, they're gonna buy the whole damn team. It's gonna be
Yeah.
a 5th team for EG.
He can't even like compliment a player on Twitter because then EG just like buys him.
yeah,
EG
I
have
have
messioso
a separate
notifications
Twitter
on.
account where I
Yeah.
follow all the talents just to make sure that EG aren't checking my follows or anything.
You just have to block Vorborg. You have to block all the coaches, block their 72 backroom staff that are also on Twitter that like see every EG tweet pop. Like, I've tweeted things about EG, and there's at least 3 employees from them that like or will like respond to tweets. They don't follow me. So I know for a fact that my tweets are getting
You're on a
sent
list.
around for some of these things. It is they have one of those Twitter lists. Awful.
They're headhunting.
I
They
have lots of
are-
Twitter
they are-
lists. They're very useful.
Yeah.
Okay, no, so MIBR beat Iron Blood 2-0, which I think we could have all expected. MIBR just simply better, even despite losing Cello.
I mean,
which that has been a big
Your one
conversation.
comment, that's MIBR, dude. About being
What do you mean?
onliners.
Well, MIBR are onliners. Yeah, well,
Dude, they got
I
chalked
think
at
that
the
they're
RMR.
they're a yo-yo team between like they could play Pro League. They would never make playoffs. They'd always get 2 to 3 wins. Or they just sweep Challenger League. That's it. That's who they are. And I think that's what they want to be. It's not like they're going out and getting the greatest, most best players, but like, and they're selling Cello for like 300 grand to Imperial. Like, but
That's
Cello, if they had Cello, genuinely, this MIBR team would actually be insane.
Yeah, they would have ran through
also
this whole
sold their
ACL.
blast spot.
What?
So they also sold their blast spot, which maybe gives you an idea of where they're aiming
Well,
to be as a team.
was that provides a little bit of an insight. But yeah, so and ATK beat Brazen, EG Black beat Vendetta, Nouns beat 1. So those overall pretty solid. Oh, that was yesterday. Oh
Yeah,
shoot.
buddy.
I'm looking at the wrong article. I'm on my own articles there. Anyways, we're gonna rehash the whole thing. Vendetta loses to Iron Blood, and Brazen
That's
lost
a
to Team
boo-boo.
1. ATK and then EG Black gets sent down to the lower bracket. So that one, what do we think about that? EG Black losing to MIBR. Honestly, a little surprised that one was a 2-0.
Graham, what do you think?
I mean, the first map was close, right? It was overtime,
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, it was.
And the second map was, I think that's fine. I think Mibber probably should be a better team than EG Black. I guess that's fine. Yeah, I mean, I'm more surprised about Nouns beating ATK, actually, considering they just made a roster change this week.
Bringing in Carson, who also bottom fragged and did not like. I mean, it's tough. It's tough when you bring in an entirely new player right before the playoffs, and that happens.
Yeah.
I'm not too familiar with the rules. I thought there definitely was like a rule that you can't. Oh no, he was still on the ESEA roster. He was still technically part of the team. He's always been part of that team. All right, so fine. So it wasn't like a new addition. Right.
Oh wow, it's a close game.
I was about to say, like, I'm not that surprised in the sense that like they're all pretty familiar with Carson and like how he plays. So
yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a close game. It was 13-16 to ATK map 1, then 16-14, and then 16-13. Like that's as close as you can really get, in a BO3. Yep. Like any one round, anything to break their money, like that completely changes how.
And that overpass was like all ATK too. Like they blew like 4 or 5 rounds to end it. So I mean that could have been an ATK 3 mapper, you know what I mean? So obviously Mirage probably plays out differently if they, but just based on numerics, like ATK, those 2 teams are right there. Like they're both super close to hitting that next level. I think Nouns looked a little better at the RMR than ATK, but I think the Carson swap out won't really be a big issue for them.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how when they go up against MIBR tonight.
Yes.
We'll also see
Definitely.
ATK and Iron Blood play tonight, and we'll see EG
Yes.
Black play Team 1 tonight. Team 1 are going to go. It's very funny how we're right now seeing Team 1 playing MIBR in the Blast Showdown, and then we're potentially going to see MIBR and Team 1 play in the ECL relegation.
Do you think that MIBR are saving strats for that game because they're currently getting bitch slapped in this game against one? They're down 13-4 on overpass.
Yeah, they're saving strats, baby.
They're saving
Saving
strats
strats
for
for now.
ECL.
Nate, George Snort's masterclass incoming.
Yeah, they want that EPL more than anything.
That's brutal, man. Imagine getting absolutely dumpstered by Team 1, and then you have to go and play a kid named George Snorts. Just like, brutal. Brutal.
If I was his
no
manager,
disrespect to
I
George.
would give him
George
money to change
George
that.
is an absolutely great kid. I just find his name very funny, and
It's very odd for
take my
sure.
opportunities to poke.
I'm not sure he can change his name now because he's submitted for. He's been to an RMR.
You can change it before stickers.
Yeah.
Stickers
Before you get stickers or before you
Yeah,
submit
before you get
stickers.
stickers.
Before you get stickers. Okay.
Once you
so
get
he's-
stickers, it's like in.
Okay.
So that was
still-
the thing. Like, I don't know if you guys remember it, but there's a player named Ramzik. Something.
Ramzik Boss.
He changed it to Ramzik Boss. That was it. It's the curse of Ramzik Boss. The curse of changing your name. It was the dumbest name, and he never went to a major again.
Right.
So
yeah, we know Valder submitted his first sticker with a 4 instead of the A, and has forever been locked in as V4 LDE. If you look in the kill feed, if you look in the kill feed of some of the games, because some tournaments, I think either ESL or DreamHack use the Valve list of submitted names for the forced names in game. So if you look in some of the kill feeds, it says V4 LDE, and it looks so horrible.
It
looks so bad. Yeah,
that's when you need a friend to just, hey, hold on, what for, buddy? Hold on, what the? This ain't 2005 or whatever. Like, we gotta move away from that.
The worst thing was, like, I was at ESL when we were running. I think the first time they enforced it was like Cologne 2015 or something, when they first started really. I think Cologne 2015 was the first time they did signature stickers. So that was when they first started locking in players' names.
Really?
And we the information we sent out was like super specific. It was like, please put your name exactly as you want it to be seen forever. Include any apostrophes, capitalization, numbers, dots, whatever you want. Like, this is your name. It has to be like.
Oh my god!
The instructions were very clear.
And we're talking about like the most inconsistent, non-committal people in Counter-Strike players. Like they can't even commit to like 3 months of playing like a game casually with one another. Like,
well, the famous one was Device, right?
Yeah, Dev.
I think it was like early 2016. He's like, I'm changing my nickname to Deva, and Valve were like, no, you're not.
You're like, dude.
and he's also registered as Device, but then he characterizes it as Device with a 1.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's actually had 2 issues with the same problem, which is
just we're very impressed.
Only Device, right?
Yeah.
Only Device would be in a situation like that, man.
I love it. So what do we think about the upcoming playoff games here? MIBR versus Nouns, ATK, Ironblood, EG Black. I mean, I'm just based on the way that Team 1 has decided to wake up today. Like, I'm thinking this is going to be an ATK Team 1 in the lower final, and I think we'll see MIBR make their way to the grand final, despite the shellacking they'll get today by Team 1 apparently.
Yeah, I don't think there's much you can say about that. I think it definitely goes between Maps and MIBR Nouns, I think. I'd be surprised if MIBR rolled them over. But I don't know. I think it could go either way. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if I wake up tomorrow and I see that Nouns will beat them. So
I think that series, that winner wins and goes to ECL. So I think those are the de facto 2 best teams, even with the Carson swap. I think those are the 2 best teams in ECL. And I think, you'll probably see that. I think that will probably be the best match for the rest of the event.
There we go.
Yeah, I think Nouns will beat Mibber. I think Nouns will beat Mibber as well today. And then
I do think so. I do think so too.
Team 1 will be EG Black, and ATK should be Ironblood. So yeah, I think that's Don't forget,
Budget
Nouns,
assessment, yeah.
Nouns beat Team 1 2-0
Yep.
in the first round.
Nouns
so
are
if you're
good, man.
so if Team 1 are smashing Mibber and Nouns
Mhm.
beat Team 1, then
I'm sorry,
logically
what?
Nouns are twice as good as Mibber.
Mibber?
Yeah. Mibber.
Yeah, dude, it's quicker than
I'm not saying
than
Mibber.
acronyms.
I'm not saying
not doing
MIBR, it's Mibber.
I'm not. I
What about
refuse.
what about Myber?
Myber?
Myber.
Myber.
No, we're not degrading into this. We're going to talk
Mibber.
about some Brazilians. What we should do now that we've established our ECL predictions here is we should talk about Furia's coaching change as we head into our IEM Rio preview once again.
Yeah.
They're having. Listen, I pissed off a few people from Furia.
Ryan was
about
so
this.
perplexed by this move.
I don't understand it. Like, I
He
get it.
hates it.
I hate this move. I hate this move so much. I firmly
Why,
believe
Ryan?
this to be the worst move because having a co-owner who is very good at poker, apparently, awesome, great. I'm so
Yes.
happy he understands the mentality of the game. When you are down in an eco situation and all of your players are tilted,
All
I
in,
don't
baby.
care how calming and soothing you are. Like, you're not going to come up with the strat. That's the coach's job, is to come up with the strat to help them figure it out. He's supposed to manage the team. He's supposed to figure out when they need to take pauses. He's supposed to figure out the rhythm and the flow. Changing the coaching right before the event is just such a wrong move in my eyes. I don't get it. It blows my mind. It makes me feel like Fury is throwing this away, or that they have zero to little faith in Tacitus, which if I'm Tacitus, I'm quitting. I'm actually quitting.
It's like, I'm leaving.
I seriously would if I was Tacitus and my role at being on stage with the team, preparing constantly.
His home
Like, he
country.
must have really sucked at Antwerp, which by and large I don't think he did. I think he was good. He might not have like the full experience that they want, but like, this is just, it blows my mind. It blows my mind. And the only way that I get proven wrong, very genuinely, is if they make legends again. If they make top 8. I don't expect them to make top 8. And if they do, I'll shut up and I'll say, I'm so sorry. I was so wrong. Absolutely, this was perfect. But it's just like, what the fuck?
I wanna hop in on this one. I genuinely don't think it's as big a deal as you're making. If the only way I'd see it as a bigger deal would be if it was Gehi that they were replacing, which I would think would be outrageous. I think like you're already losing Gehi. I don't think it matters too much in a sense. Like I don't like I've never
He's
talked
an
to
assistant coach. He's been
He's
there.
like
This
the-
is his job.
I get that, but like also phase 1 of Major Way, guy called Eddie behind them, like that had like nothing to do with.
Furia, okay, but Furia is not phase. Furia, as we have said here, is struggling. They are very much struggling. And like, what they do not need is to play around days before you're going down to Rio.
But who's saying that they were playing around? Maybe this had been decided like weeks ago, months ago. Like maybe it was even
not.
decided.
It was not. I know that it was not.
You know for a fact it was not.
I know for a fact it was not decided months ago. I know for a
Okay.
fact that it was like they decided to have the conversation like a week or two ago. Like, that's not enough time. That's really not enough time.
Like you said though, that they are struggling. So like maybe this is like, let's just change it. Like this isn't working or something.
I'm all for
I don't think it
curveballs.
has-
I'm all for
I-
curveballs. This is
yeah.
not the curveball to throw.
I don't think that this is all as.
This
big
is
a deal as
hanging you. This is just hanging at the top of the plate. Aaron Judge is up to bat, and he's taking you 450 direct center. Like,
Yeah, I
it's
know what that
just-
means.
I don't.
Yeah, I mean, here's the,
A baseball reference.
You're
I'm
laying,
Irish
you're
Irish.
laying
New
the
York
ball off
guy.
for Ronaldo, and he's hitting. He's absolutely thunder punting the thing
Okay,
as hard as he can into the top
this
right.
makes more
Like,
sense.
that's
Sure.
where this is.
Okay, I get your point. I just for me, I don't see that as.
what
that
about
big
the
a deal.
manager's opinion? What does the team manager think on this sudden switch of coach?
It's not something that I think is completely out of left field. It's definitely something that I've discussed with
Ryan's about to blow his gourd.
previous performance coaches at other teams. I think for me, I think it's how much and this is obviously quite subjective to the coach themselves and how much and how the team works, but how much influence can a coach have during 30 rounds of Counter-Strike? in theory, obviously you could talk during your opponent's timeouts, right? But
Sure.
you get 4 30-second timeouts to influence the match. So if the logic would be that you should have enough strategy and game plan prepared before the game, that the main thing that you need to figure out in the timeouts is perhaps just getting people's heads in the game, right? And there are obviously each team is set up differently. Like in the scenarios I had, we were operating with one coach, not with a coach and an assistant coach and an analyst or anything like that. But some logic we were potentially using, especially in, like, for example, a DreamHack Open event where you play like multiple best of ones or best of threes a day,
Sure.
was that if you keep your head coach off the game, they can sit in the crowd or sit backstage and analyze the game in real time, so that when the team finishes the game, they can immediately go straight back to the drawing board, go through everything, do like a proper debrief, and they'd be prepared for the next game. Meanwhile, you have your like performance mental coach, who hopefully knows something about the game to some degree, so that they can at least follow and they're not completely lost with what they're watching. That they can then help the team during the game, keeping the right mental space and stuff like that. We never did it. Never got a chance to. That was mostly COVID related. It's not to say that it would never have happened. It's not to say that it would have happened, but COVID obviously stuck around a bit too long, so that was never something we could actually implement. But I can see the logic behind it, and I can see the benefits of it potentially. Especially, for example, with DreamHack Open, where you play, or they're called Challenger League events now, right? But you play like back-to-back best of ones on that first day, or you can play 2 best of threes on the second day if you're in the losers game. But the same applies to the major, right? We were in a weird spot at the RMR where the Swiss stage, you play 2 best of ones on the same day, and do you have enough time to go back to the venue to analyze things and then come back to the studio?
Sure.
I can see where there could be circumstances where it could be beneficial to, for example, to not have your head coach if you only have one member of your coaching staff or one member of analytics coaching, whatever you want to call it. That there could be benefits to having them not in the match so that they can work on the analysis side of things live. But there's also issues with do you need to have like the live comms to be able to understand what actually happened to analyze the game properly? And yeah, there's a lot of facets to it, but I can definitely see the logic that they've potentially used, and I'm not against it, because I think that changing, someone has to try it first to see if it will actually work, right? Everyone thought that 6-man rosters were going to be terrible, but Navi and Vitality had quite a lot of success with their 6-man rosters.
Yeah, but
not
then they
not
just
not
did.
not not enough to say that they're the world.
like-
Right.
They were never consistently the number one team in the world, but they proved that they could make it work to a certain degree of quality that could suggest that there is something to look into there, right?
Look,
So
I'm just
I'm not
saying-
afraid of innovation.
That's fine. I'm just saying, I just think that the poker guy coming in and being a coach on the major might just be a little out of left field, and I don't necessarily.
But can the other Furia coaches go all in, and can they call bluffs, and can they bet against the river?
I'm not doing this with you.
Shut up,
All right.
Lucas.
Let's try and do some rapid fire.
Hey, all I'm gonna say is
style stuff here. We've got to.
All I'm gonna say is real quick, if they're gonna blow it up, this is a good move. That's all I'm gonna say. If they're gonna blow it up because they've been together all year, this iteration of
What a
Furia,
hell of a way to go.
yeah.
Would you say it's like shoving all in?
Yeah, it is.
Haha.
Betting with house money.
I'm moving on.
I'm proud of that one.
Not doing this. Dark horse is here. I think it's officially time that we can call EG a dark horse
Yes.
at this major.
Yes.
I think that's
What, to win?
fair to say. Yeah,
win the major.
Absolutely. Very
Yeah.
big dark horse.
Oh, I
One of
thought
the
you meant
darkest,
to-
one of the darkest
I'm a
horses
big
that will
fan.
exist.
I'm a big
I'm a
fan,
huge
but
fan.
I wouldn't call them a dark horse to
I thought
win.
you meant
the
dark
major.
horse to be top 8 at this in the stage.
They'll get on stage at some point, probably. Maybe dark horse to make the top 16, but no, I think that they, they might have a shot. Who knows? I think that the Challengers is going to be pretty grueling, more than the Legends, honestly.
Yeah.
That's a hot take. And I think disappointing will be, unfortunately, I think it'll be the Brazilian teams. I think the Brazilian teams are unfortunately going to really disappoint as we get towards Rio. I don't think Imperial is going to make it out of Challengers, and I would be genuinely shocked if 00 Nation get out of Challengers, nevertheless make an impact in the new Legend stage. So those are my dark horses, and who's going to disappoint.
Okay.
Liam,
Yeah.
Graham.
I think in terms of dark horse, it's a lot harder to say which is exactly a dark horse if you don't figure out who the favorites are. And I think since things have kind of opened up towards this side of the season, like with FaZe and Navi looking as strong, I think it's a lot easier to call other teams favorites in like the same category as like a FaZe or Navi. So I think like the favorites for me would probably be FaZe, Navi, Vitality, and Liquid, Cloud9, I think, are like in that conversation as well. Like, I think it's difficult to call a team like a Cloud9 or a team like a Liquid a dark horse because I don't think there's a clear cut favorite for this major. I think if you want to throw in a real dark horse, just based on form and like how well they've been doing, how much they've been progressing, maybe a team like Mouse could like do like a upset miracle run because like they've slowly been building since like previous tournaments leading into Cologne and then EPL they performed well. I just think the thing with a team like Mouse is probably inexperience because like it's Mouse NXT plus. So, but I don't think there's any other like clear cut kind of dark horse team that you could say like really could go. Maybe a 00 Nation if this crowd kind of gets behind them because I'm just super high on them. But outside of that, like I think Big have kind of looked like they're struggling. Fnatic, I'm not super high on yet, but yeah, for me, and I think teams that probably disappoint. Imperial. I think like if they come up against like real top teams, like I think they're really going to struggle because that's like where they have struggled. Like even since like Antwerp, like the best team that they've probably beaten on the LAN was Cloud9, who looked really weak at the last major compared to like their previous standards.
Between me and the rest of the world, Imperial just showing up was a win. Like like honestly, like them just showing up was a big win in my opinion. So yeah. Graham, if you want to go before I go, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, I'll take this. Maybe it's a hot take, maybe not. Obviously, yeah, obviously, I'm just going to preface this with extremely disappointed that we didn't make the major.
Yeah.
But I think that the 6 teams that the Americas have sent this time around are much stronger than the 6 teams we sent last time, even though it's a lot of the same team names.
Ooh.
So
Okay.
I think that we're going to secure more slots for the next major. I think at least 4 teams will get out of EG, Furia, 00 Nation, 9Z, and Imperial. I think 4 of them will get out. I couldn't tell you exactly which 4, but I think that 4 of them will get out. I think that the European teams that have come this time around are pretty underwhelming compared to previous majors. I think there was a lot more upsets in their RMR than perhaps they expected, wanted. I don't know how to put it. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess the Europeans don't really care if they lose like 1 slot. It's like, oh yeah, you got 15 instead of 16.
No, they have
but
a bajillion, but one slot
but going from 6 to 7 is really freaking big for us. So I think we've sent 6 stronger teams this time around than we did last time. And I think 4 of them will get through, which is great. You know, if we get an extra slot, that's fantastic. And I think, yeah,
who's going to disappoint though? We've got all the best, but who's going to disappoint at this major? Are we going to disappoint or Europeans?
I'm going to say that there's going to be some. I think there's going to be some European teams that are going to disappoint. Because I think that the American teams are actually going to, or the Americas teams, sorry, are actually going to do a lot better than people expect. You know, it's very hard to say who specifically is going to not do so well because the Swiss can really throw up your seeding. I mean,
Right.
you can only look. You only have to look at our routes through the last 2 Swiss stages to experience that. You know, the first one we're seed 2, Furia seed 1. Somehow we meet in the 2-0 game. Great. Okay. Second time, you know, we're like seed 6 or something, and we somehow still meet Liquid, who are the best team in the 2-0 game. It's just like, yeah,
no,
you know,
it's messed up.
It's the Swiss system isn't being implemented properly, and that causes a lot of issues with the seeding.
All right, so who's your European team? Big, they're not looking so great. They've now got Sin.
Yeah, I don't think Big will get through.
Okay.
I don't think they will. I think there's a lot of good teams in the first 16. You know, you only have to
Gamer
look at some of the
Legion?
teams that
Outsiders? Come on, give me a name.
Oh
You
no,
gotta
no.
give me a name.
Outsiders are going to make it through 100%. Like they're going to
Wow.
go through to the second stage. Yeah. If I had to give you a name of someone who I think, yeah, I mean, I could see big. I could see Mouse Sports not getting through in a weird. You know, if they meet the wrong teams in like those
True.
2-1, 2-2 games, like you just don't know who you're going to meet in the 2-2 games. I mean, I think even at the last major we had like a bunch of really weird 2-2 games, right? Where like the favorites all played each other, and then like the teams that should never have played each other, and things just went wrong for everyone, right? So I think it's very hard to say like exactly which specific teams, because you just can't guarantee on the Swiss results. But from sort of my gut feeling, I think that Big and Mouse Sports are probably the two teams that I look at out of all the teams that you sort of would say from from organizational history and from how they've been playing recently. Mouse went 5-0 in their pro league, right? So like they've clearly got something, but I feel like I feel like they're the kind of team that I could see not going through, and I could be like, oh yeah, like that. I kind of could see that happening. I think Big. I think the whole Sin Farven thing, I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Obviously, it seems pretty forced. So I guess it's what they have to do. But I do think that Farven is probably a better player than Sin, and it probably hurts them not having him. So I think in a way it gives them kind of a this is the situation. So we'll make the best out of it. But it definitely hampers them, in my opinion. I think OG are pretty shoo-ins to go through, along with Fatality, Cloud9, Outsiders. I'd say they're the four that I think will definitely go through to from the European side. And then I think, if I'm calling that, then it's EG, Furia, 9Z, and 00 Nation, right? There's the other four, and then we're done.
You'll love to see it. You'll love to see it. All right, well, we've got to wrap up here. Liam, Lucas, any final thoughts as we kind of end the show and look forward to it? Next week, we're going to have YEKINDAR coming on. He's going to give his first interview since signing a new contract with Liquid, so that's going to be fantastic. And any final thoughts on for you guys?
Nah, I'll just repeat pretty much what I said last week. I'm super, super looking forward to this major. I think it's going to be one of the most exciting ones we've had in a while.
All right.
I think only C9 and Astralis have won a major from challengers, so probably not likely any of these teams probably make it. So let's go Liquid. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, I love it. I'm Ryan at Desk 2. That's been Graham Messioso from Complexity, their GM.
Yeah,
Liam Slevin, Slevo CS, Lucas at Desk 2. We are your hosts. Graham is the guest, and we will see you guys next week.